My father texted me coldly, "I disown you." All communication through my lawyer. I stared at the words, then I replied with a single cold word. Okay. Then I opened my laptop. I logged into my bank. I systematically canceled every single financial tie I had to them. The $2,500 automatic mortgage payment, the family cell phone plan, the business credit line I co-signed for. 48 hours later, my mom called in panic. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. My coldness wasn't a phase, it was a conclusion. 48 hours before I was disowned, I received the evidence. My uncle Jeffrey, my father's brother, forwarded me a video. The text just said, "Look at this." He must have meant to send it to someone else. I pressed play. It was a video from a family dinner at my father's house, a dinner I hadn't been invited to. The camera was shaky, but the voices were clear. My Aunt Stephanie was laughing. My father Gregory was holding a beer. "She's a good kid," my uncle said from behind the camera. "Helping you out like this." My father snorted. "She's not a kid, she's an ATM. And a lonely one. She's so desperate for approval, she'd pay for the air we breathe if I asked her to." My brother Brandon chimed in. "It's honestly sad. She thinks sending Dad money makes her important. But she's still just, Lakeland." I watched my father raise his glass in a toast. To my personal ATM. They all laughed. I didn't cry. As an auditor, my job is to find the rot beneath the pristine ledgers. And I had just audited my own family. The numbers were staggering. 4 years ago, my father's restaurant supply business had faltered. He was days from foreclosure on the house I grew up in. He and my mother, Melissa, had called me weeping. "You're the only one who can help Lakeland. You're the responsible one." So I did. I agreed to cover the $2,500 mortgage payment every single month. For 4 years. I did the math in my head. That was $120,000. 4 years ago, my father's restaurant supply business had faltered. He was days from foreclosure on the house I grew up in. He and my mother, Melissa, had called me weeping. "You're the only one who can help Lakeland. You're the responsible one." I did the math in my head. That was $120,000. You have to understand the invisible chains of the survivor. When you grow up as the scapegoat, you learn that love is transactional. Your worth is measured by your usefulness. You don't get affection, you earn a temporary pause in the hostility. Paying that mortgage wasn't generosity. It was a tax. It was the price I paid for peace. It was easier to send the money than to endure the screaming, the manipulation, and the weaponized guilt of not caring about the family. I know what you're probably thinking. Why would you do that for so long? Why would you let them treat you that way? And the cruelty from the video, that was the trap of normalized cruelty. In families like mine, everyone has a role. Brandon was the golden child. He could do no wrong. His failures were just bad luck. My failures were character flaws. I was the scapegoat, the one who existed to absorb the family's problems and their anger. They weren't just being mean. They were reinforcing a system that had worked for them for 30 years. And I was done being their ATM. My phone was silent for exactly 48 hours. Then the panic began. It rang on Tuesday morning just as I was pouring my coffee. My mother, Melissa. I let it ring 3 times, watched her name flash on the screen, and then I answered. I put it on speaker. "Lakeland, what did you do?" Her voice wasn't calm. It was a high-pitched shriek, thin with disbelief. "The bank just called your father. The mortgage payment was rejected. It's due today, Lakeland. You need to fix this right now." I waited until she had to take a breath. "I was disowned, Melissa," I said, my voice as flat as the countertop. "All communication goes through my lawyer." What lawyer, Lakeland, don't be." I hung up. My phone immediately exploded. It was a digital avalanche of their entitlement. A text from my brother Brandon. "You're pathetic. Dad is ruined because of you. You better fix this." Another one from my Aunt Stephanie. "Your mother is hysterical. Whatever childish game you're playing, you need to stop it immediately and apologize." Childish. Game. They were still reading from the old script. They thought this was a tantrum. They thought I was a child throwing a fit to get attention. They didn't realize I was an auditor calmly closing their books. I didn't reply to a single text. I didn't answer a single call. I just opened my laptop. I drafted a new email. My hands weren't shaking. As an auditor, I had sent hundreds of cold, factual emails. This was just one more. The recipient list was long. My entire extended family, my Uncle Jeffrey who sent the video, my Aunt Stephanie who laughed in it, my cousins. And most importantly, I added several prominent members of their community, the same people who sat on the board of the community medical fund my father managed. The subject line was simple: financial support for Gregory. What lawyer Lakeland don't be. To all, as I have been formally disowned by Gregory as of Sunday night, this email is to notify you that my ongoing financial support has concluded. For the sake of full transparency, I have attached a ledger of the support I have provided over the last 48 months, which totals $120,000. I have also attached a short video from a recent family gathering, which I feel provides the necessary context for my decision. Sincerely, Lakeland. Attachment 1: Mortgage, Payments, Ledger, $120K. PDF. Attachment 2: Family Dinner, ATM, MP4. I looked at the attachments, the cold, hard spreadsheet, the hot, humiliating video, facts, and feelings. My finger hovered over the mouse. This wasn't just ending an argument, this was detonating a reputation. I thought about the word ATM. I thought about them laughing. I clicked send. The email detonated the family. The real one, not the performance version I had always known. The first response wasn't an apology, it was an attack. Within hours, I received a formal-looking email from a law firm I didn't recognize. It was a cease and desist. It accused me of defamation, harassment, and tortious interference with my father's business. It said I had acted maliciously. It threatened a lawsuit of $75,000 unless I immediately issued a public retraction and a formal apology. They were threatening to sue me for exposing the truth. They thought a scary letterhead would be enough to make me crawl back, delete the post, and apologize. I read the letter once, then I laughed. I didn't just have suspicions, I had receipts. I didn't get scared. I got a lawyer. I forwarded the email to a family law attorney in Denver, a woman with a reputation for being a shark. I explained my situation. She was, to say the least, intrigued. They're bluffing, she told me over the phone. Defamation requires the statements to be false. You have a $120,000 spreadsheet and a video of them admitting to the behavior. They don't have a case. I know, I said, but I'm not just here to defend myself. I want you to launch a counter-investigation. As an auditor, I've always had suspicions about my father's books. He always claimed things were sloppy. I think sloppy was a cover for something else. What are you thinking? He manages a small community medical fund for an elderly neighbor, Mrs. Harrison. She's battling cancer. The family set it up, and my father volunteered to manage the accounts. I've seen the paperwork he filed. It's creative. My lawyer was silent for a moment. I'm on it. She called me back 2 days later. Her voice was grim. Lakeland, it's exactly as you suspected, but it's worse. How much worse? He didn't just borrow from the fund, he systematically embezzled from it. Over the last 3 years, he has siphoned $60,000 from that woman's medical fund, stealing from a cancer patient, while taking $2,500 a month from his own daughter. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This was a serious crime. The revelations didn't stop. The email I'd sent had woken up ghosts. That night, I got a call from my cousin, Natalie, Aunt Stephanie's daughter. She was crying. Lakeland, she whispered, I saw your email. I saw the video. I have to tell you something. I'm so sorry. Natalie, what's wrong? It's about your dad. When I was 17, I stayed at your house. You were away at college. He came into my room. He was predatory, Lakeland. He tried. I felt sick. What did you do? I screamed, she said, her voice shaking. I told my mom, your Aunt Stephanie, the next day. She told me I had to be quiet, that I must have misunderstood, that I would ruin the family if I ever spoke of it again. She's been protecting him. They've all been protecting him. That's why she laughed so hard in that video. She's terrified of him. It was a conspiracy of silence, built to protect the man at the center. The final call came an hour later. It was a woman named Dana, my late mother's best friend. I hadn't spoken to her in years. Lakeland, honey, she said, her voice full of a sorrow. I didn't understand. I saw the email chain. Your cousin sent it to me. She paused. Your mother. She would be so proud of you. You finally did what she never could. What do you mean? Gregory wasn't just a bad father, honey. He was an abusive husband. Emotionally, financially. He bled her dry. He controlled every penny, belittled every decision. It's why she was always so sick. I watched him do it to her. and now I've watched him do it to you. You're not the scapegoat, Lakeland. You were just the next victim in his lifelong pattern. I hung up the phone. I finally understood. This wasn't a dysfunctional family. It was a crime scene, and my father was the perpetrator. News of a $60,000 embezzlement from a cancer patient's medical fund doesn't stay quiet for long. It took about a week for the story to break in the community. My father's name was suddenly everywhere, and not in the way he was used to. My brother Brandon, in a move of pure golden child panic, did the stupidest thing he could have possibly done. He tried to get ahead of the story. He went on Facebook and posted a long, rambling public status update. I can't believe what my sister Lakeland is doing to our family, he wrote. She's always been jealous, but this is a new low. My father is a good man. She was the auditor. She had access to all the books for that fund. Now $60,000 is missing, and she's framing our father to steal his house. She's the one who stole the money. He thought he was controlling the narrative. Instead, he had just publicly confirmed the $60,000 amount admitted I was the auditor who had seen the books and given the victim's family a new target. The Harrison family, the relatives of the cancer patient, had been heartbroken and hesitant. Brandon's post made them furious. My lawyer called me that afternoon. You're not going to believe this, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. The Harrison family is filing a criminal complaint for embezzlement and conspiracy to defraud. They didn't just name Gregory, they named Brandon too. His Facebook post was, and I quote their lawyer, a public confession of his involvement in a criminal cover-up. The confrontation I had been waiting for my entire life didn't happen with a bang. It happened with a desperate knock. It was a week later. I opened my apartment door, and Gregory was standing there. He looked small. He wasn't the tyrant from the video. He was just a terrified old man. He was unshaven, his eyes were red, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. Lakeland, he said, his voice cracking. Please, they're going to arrest me. The police. They're talking about fraud. You have to help me. You're my daughter. He was actually wringing his hands. You're the auditor. You can fix this. You can tell them it was all a mistake. Just give me money for a better lawyer. Please. I just looked at him. The man who had called me his ATM, the man who had disowned me. Now he stood on my doorstep begging me to be his ATM, one last time. I didn't say anything. I just reached into my bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I handed it to him. What's this? He asked, his hands shaking as he unfolded it. It was a copy of the criminal complaint. I watched his eyes scan the page, getting wider and wider until they landed on the second name listed as a co-conspirator, Brandon. You should probably give this to his lawyer too, I said. His head snapped up his face, a mask of confusion and horror. I was disowned, remember? Talk to my lawyer. I closed the door. The okay I sent my father was a quiet word, but it was the single most violent act of my life. It set off a chain reaction that no one, not even I, could stop. The collapse was not one single event. It was a series of controlled demolitions, each one hitting a load-bearing wall of their fraudulent lives. First, the legal battle. My father's threatened lawsuit against me evaporated the moment my lawyer sent them the file on his $60,000 embezzlement. The criminal case, however, moved forward with brutal speed. Brandon, my golden child brother, was the first to crack. Faced with a conspiracy charge, his entitlement shattered. He took a plea deal. He stood in court and testified against his own father, detailing how Gregory had bragged about managing the medical fund. He painted himself as a victim, a son who was just following orders. He avoided jail time, but the community saw him for what he was, a coward. He was left with a ruined reputation and crippling legal debts. Then came Gregory. Without his golden son to defend him, and with my audit notes as the prosecution's roadmap, the trial was a formality. He was convicted of felony fraud. I didn't go to the sentencing. My lawyer told me he received 3 years in state prison. With Gregory incarcerated and Brandon bankrupted by his own legal fees, the house was next. The foreclosure was quick. The bank seized the property, the house I had saved, the house my mother had loved, and it was sold at auction for pennies on the dollar. The family name, once a source of pride in their small community, was now synonymous with fraud and betrayal. While their world was imploding, mine was quietly finally beginning. A week after my father's sentencing, I was called into my boss's office. I thought it was about the bad press, the family drama. Instead, she offered me a promotion, senior director of audits for the entire hospitality group. Lakeland, she said, I don't know the details of what's been going on in your personal life, but I know that for the last 2 months you've handled an unimaginable amount of pressure with absolute integrity and professionalism. That's the kind of leadership this firm needs." I walked out of her office, promotion in hand, and stood in the glass elevator overlooking the Denver skyline. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. It just felt solid. For the first time in my life, my worth wasn't being debated by angry men at a dinner table. It wasn't a transaction. It wasn't something I had to pay for month after month. It was just a fact, written on a new contract in a new office on a new floor. The ledgers were finally balanced. I didn't go to the auction. I didn't need to. I heard the house sold, the one my $120,000 had kept safe for 4 years. I heard my father served his time and was released. I heard my brother Brandon works in a warehouse now, trying to pay off his legal fees. I never heard from any of them again. The ledgers were finally balanced. That $2,500 a month, my peace tax. I started investing it in myself. It's quiet here. It's a different kind of silence than the one I grew up with. Their silence was a weapon full of things unsaid of resentment and demands. This silence, this is just peace. I started writing. Not just audit reports, but my story. I started a small blog, a place to put my thoughts. I called it The Scapegoat's Ledger. I wrote about financial abuse. I wrote about the guilt. I showed others how to keep their own receipts, how to track the invisible labor of being the responsible one. The response was immediate, overwhelming. I realized I wasn't the only one. There are thousands of us. So many Lakelands out there holding their families together, paying a price no one ever acknowledges just to be allowed to stay. And if you're one of them, if you're listening to this right now, this last part is for you. This is a letter to everyone who has ever felt like they were on the edge, on the fringes of their own family. You are the one who texts first. You are the one who remembers the birthdays. You are the one who calls just to check in. And you are the one who listens to the silence on the other end, knowing they will only call you when they need something. You are the fixer, the responsible one, the peacemaker. You have been told your entire life that your kindness is your greatest strength, but they have treated it like your greatest obligation. You are not crazy.